All right, we're back up. I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to stay up. Good Monday morning, everybody. Good Monday morning, ladies. And I know that you're over there waiting, and I do apologize. They're working on our computers over here. And I have been assured that they're going to continue working on our computers. So I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to be up the whole time. But for now, we're up. And go ahead and make sure that you complete your sign-in sheets. We've done that here. Do them over there. And, I'll be over in a little bit to pick them up over there. And Sunday, what's Sunday? This coming Sunday, what is it? It's Mother's Day. So, if you have a mother or if you are a mother, then, you need to be cognizant of the fact that this coming Sunday is Mother's Day. My mom has been passed away now for many, many years, but still on that day, I honor my mother for that day, and I also get my wife a little something, something. And I don't know what I'm going to get her, but I'm gonna make sure that I get that done today because I have this habit of forgetting if I wait. And the table here is driving me crazy because I'm a little bit OCD and this thing is crooked. But I'm going to get my tools afterward. I figured it out. It will adjust this way, so I'm gonna fix that.
You just got to stay a little.
Yeah, that's what I have to do a little bit. And I know it seems weird over there because we are like that. But do that. I also send some stuff to, I have a daughter-in-law who's a mommy, and I have a daughter who's a mommy. So we're going to make sure that they get loved on a little bit this weekend as well. So, y'all can do that too. And if you're not anywhere where you can be around your mom, at least you can honor your mom and honor her memory, whatever that is. They put up with a lot of stuff. I worked out at the prison for 13 years out there at one, and then 3.5 at the other, so for 16.5 years. And they had to have a counselor go out to the visitation, and every Saturday we had visitation. And so when it came up my turn, I would go out there and be there for the visitation thing. And the thing that I noticed is no matter how egregious, no matter how horrible the crime, no matter how terrible the person, mommy would come. Sometimes wife wouldn't come. Sometimes daddy, very seldom, daddy would come. But most of the time when you go out there, mommy would be there. She would come to love on her baby, no matter what, So the thing is, mom's kind of like Jesus. Doesn't make much difference what you did. They're still going to love you, right? So, love on her back, and we'll love her. Today, look, this week is emotional week, so that's a good week to be talking about loving your mom and stuff like that. But we started a thing I don't know, I think it was the last emotional week that we started, and we've done this 2 or 3 times where we try to get the anger thing done. I have a book that I wrote that I use in my own facility, and I've been trying to get through that thing, and some of you haven't been here when we started on it. But we'll start on it again at some other time because today I really want to get started back where we stopped last time and try to get some more of that stuff in there because there are people here who've been through the beginning of it 2 or 3 times. And so we don't want to do that again. So we're going to do that, but we're not going to start right at the front. We'll start somewhere in the middle of it. So it's Emotional Health Week. One of the things that we do when we come in a lot of the times with emotional health is that we just kind of deny we have any emotions. We get in denial about we're an emotional people, and that's not true. We're all emotional people. And, if I tell you something and I don't carry through with it, is that going to hurt your feelings? Or can you get angry about it? Yeah. And why is that?
Some people are emotionally soft.
Yeah, some people are emotionally soft. We all are emotional people. Yeah, I tell you, I'm an emotional person, and sometimes if you tell me something and you don't carry through with it, then I get my feelings hurt. And I've told people a couple of times in here something, and then not been able to do it. I'm not going to tell y'all who. It doesn't matter. But I told one individual in here, man, I want to get that for you, right? And then I tried to go get it, and I couldn't get it. I tried to go get it, and I couldn't get it. And I tried to go get it, and I forgot. Yeah, and then when I come up, and I say, hey, I didn't get that because I went, the place was closed. I didn't get that because I just plain stinking forgot about it. And every time I tell him that, he goes, well, it's okay. So hard. It's so, but I do know that emotionally that can bother people, right? I do know that. Now, I didn't tell him that I know that he has an anger issue. And I'm using this as a treatment ploy to help him with his anger problem. I didn't tell him that because I'm afraid that'll make him, what, angry? Because you can't make somebody angry. They have to choose to get angry. That's one of the things we need to know about the study we're going to do today. Is that, hey, look, the spectrum people are leaving. That must mean they fixed it. And it's working great. I'm going to tell you, went through there really well. So here's the deal. A lot of the time when we first come in, and because of who we are, male and female, we deny or we avoid the fact that we have emotions. While you've been told or have come to some self-realization, you know it, that emotional health is suffering. My emotions are getting the best of me. I always need to keep my intellect over my emotions. Why is that?
You can go retarded when you get angry.
You can get retarded when you get angry. But the thing is, if I allow my emotions over my intellect, I will do anything I want to do. And being the way that we're supposed to be in society and being social and pro-social people, we are supposed to have our emotions under our intellect and our emotions under control. And now, let me share this with you. Not being mean to anybody, but let me share this. Your emotions will be controlled. Now, y'all know what I mean? I have the option, God-given, government-given, family-given, socially given option to deal with my own emotions, right? And I should. That's the expectation. I deal with my own emotions. What if I don't deal with my own emotions? Somebody else going to deal with them for me. They will be. If you have to call somebody to deal with my emotions, somebody can be called. There are people. There are police officers who work just with emotionally distraught people. And, we can do that. We don't want to have to do anything like that, right? So I need to deal with my own emotions. Does that mean I don't ever need help dealing with my emotions? No, oftentimes I need help. That's why we can't avoid our emotions or we can't pretend we don't have those emotions. If there's emotions that are overriding me or if there's emotions that are causing me issues, then I need to get some help with that. So we've been told or have some self-realization that my emotional health is suffering. You haven't taken any steps to address it, to the concerns. You haven't done anything to make any improvements. possibly you've denied that there's any existence of any problems. I'm not going to say that anybody here is like that, but a lot of the time we do that. You know, a lot of the times we become very stoic, and we just act like we don't have any emotions, and we're not bothered by any of that stuff. That's not true. All of us can be bothered. How many people enjoy being lied to?
Okay, what?
Lied to? You ever had anybody lie to you? Well, nobody enjoys that. You enjoy it? Okay. You've had somebody lie to you, yeah. Okay. So, but nobody enjoys that. I don't want to enjoy that. I want to be able, when I go and talk to my wife, or talk to my children, or talk to my boss, or talk to my clients, I want to be able to realize that person telling me the truth. You know, I want them to do that. When somebody tells me something and later I find out it's not the truth, does that hurt my feelings? Yeah, I don't like that.
Depending on who it is.
No, it doesn't depend on, not for me. Now, maybe for you it does. I want everybody to tell me the truth. And I don't care even if the truth is a little hurtful. You know, I love it when somebody comes up and say, hey, Doc, you're suffering from halitosis this morning. What does that mean?
That's right.
I got the bad breath. My mouth is stinking like an open sewer. It don't smell good. I want somebody to come up and tell me that. You know, go, oh my God. You know, then I'm gonna go back and do something like drink a half a gallon of gasoline or something to kill it. You know, I was at my dentist's office one time and my dentist said, "Have you ever used a tongue scraper?" Y'all ever had your dentist ask you that? No. And what on earth? First off, I didn't know there was any such thing as a tongue scraper. Otherwise, I don't know anybody that I know personally that really wants to scrape their tongue. And he said, well, it's for bad breath control. I said, so you're telling me I have bad breath? He said, no. I'm just telling you it's bad breath control, he said, through his mask. So I'm thinking, okay. You know, I need to do that. So I want somebody to look, and if there's something that I'm doing that you don't appreciate, do I want you to tell me? Yeah, I do. Now, sometimes right in the midst of something, I may not appreciate it as much as I should, but when I go back and sit down for a few minutes, the appreciation comes to me. So I do. I want you to tell me the truth. I've had people in here tell me, I don't like the way you do group. Y'all remember, we had a guy who said he would tell me nearly every group he didn't like the way I did group. And but look, I didn't like the way that he delivered that, but I liked the fact that he delivered it. We had some really meaningful discussions in my office about how to do that a little bit different and stuff like that. So, no, I want people to tell me the truth. And it does hurt my feelings when people don't. And sometimes you don't find out about it for hours or sometimes days later that they weren't telling you the truth. And that's not good. So today, the reason that we're going to go over anger one more time is because I want to finish up what we started, but also this is one of those, and I've told y'all about several of them, like HIV and AIDS and smoking cessation and some of those other things that the state says we need you to do that. You know, and since they're paying all the bills, then we do that, right? So this is another one that they say we need you to teach on anger management. And I'm a CART, which is a certified anger reduction therapist. So I can teach on it with some, and I wrote this book, so I can teach on it with a little bit of authority. So we're going to read this first part of it. First off, we need to understand a couple of things about anger before we skip over to where we're going to start today. Anger is a normal. Yeah, I've had so many people in our anger class believe that they're just not normal because they have all these anger issues. But it's normal. It's neither good nor bad. Being angry is not good. It's not bad. Some of the times the things that we do when we're angry causes us to do some things that are bad. But also anger can cause us to do some things that are good. So we don't need to be afraid of anger. We just need to be cautious about uncontrolled anger. Because uncontrolled anger hurts you and me. And it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Because when I get to a level of anger, I can lose control. And when that's the one thing I don't want any of us to ever do. If I ever get into a boxing match with somebody, I want to be totally in control. Right? I don't want to be scared. I'm not going to be scared. And I certainly don't want to be angry. I don't want to be angry. Because, most people, when they get into a fight, they're angry. But they get into that fight because like Mr. Allen said, your anger will lower your IQ and you'll do things you normally do. This is what we need to keep in control of our anger.
So it's not a good thing for a Christian.
Say it again.
It's not a good thing for a Christian.
Well, look. Of course, I don't know what you mean by that, but you can embrace the fact that anger is a normal emotion. It's something that everybody is capable of. But we also need to understand a couple of things about anger. Anger does some nasty things to us and will get us to a place where we can do some nasty things. But anger is totally and completely under your control. It is the one emotion that you have complete control over. And it is the one emotion that causes us to lose control quicker and more often than any other emotion. Jealousy is an emotion. Do you lose control when you are jealous? You can. You get so jealous that you just go completely crazy, but not usually. When you get your feelings hurt, do you lose control? Not usually. You can. But it's a very seldom thing when people lose control and strike out because of that. But when you are angry, your IQ lowers by up to 40 points. And so you can lose control fairly easily when you're angry. So we have to learn how to deal with our anger. And since it's a secondary emotion, then we need to know that anger just doesn't happen. It is caused by that primary emotion that drives the anger. So what's the primary emotion that drives the anger for guys?
Jealousy.
What is it?
Jealousy.
Guilt?
Jealousy.
Jealousy? It could, but that's not the big one. What is it? Fear. Fear is the one, that's the emotion that's usually driving a man's anger. If I have I have the police bring some people to our facility, because they've done something. And so they come to our facility and they come in there and almost always, hey, sure enough. And we tell them that, hey, your fear is probably driven your anger is probably driven by fear. Most people, most guys, they don't want to hear that crap. I ain't scared of you and nobody else in the whole world, man. Like you were doing earlier. Yeah, okay, anybody, 3-year-old can do that. And I'm not calling it 3, but a 3-year-old can bow up. They can do that. But it's usually fear. And so we have to go back and figure out what we're afraid of and then move forward from there to deal with the anger. What is it with ladies? Fear of abandonment. It's still fear. Fear is that great motivator for anger, but it is fear of abandonment. And when we get the ladies into the program over there and we tell them, look, here's the deal. This is why you're angry all of the stinking time, and you're cussing out your husband, and you're beating up your children, and you're hollering and screaming, and all of that kind of stuff. It's because you have this deep-seated fear of abandonment. Do they get angry? Well, guys get angry at me. Ladies usually get tearful and start crying and all of that kind of stuff because they know that that's true. So here's the deal. Let me read this and we'll get going. Anger is a normal reaction that's not good or bad. Discerning the different type, and discerning means I'm understanding The different types of anger can help us to deepen our awareness of the emotional needs and the triggers that cause it. Understanding my anger allows me to become more proactive in responding to it. Anger sometimes is a good thing, but most times it's a bad thing. So if we can look back to the last time we got angry, we can see whether or not it was good or bad. And if it was bad, we know we need to do something about it. Understanding how it becomes more proactive in responding to it, you can improve how you show up in relationships and cope better with stress. So there's 12 types of anger. We went over about 4 or 5 of them. We're going to go over and get to the one here in a minute that we stopped on. But because anger can display in different ways, depending on the individual and the situation, and listen, this is important, because anger is a secondary emotion. It's not a primary emotion. Nobody can just go from calm to angry. I know people who get angry quickly, and they tell me, "Man, that ain't true, man. I'm what you call a rager, dude. Don't fool with me. You fool with me, man. I'm on you like I'll punch you in the face, just like that, just like that." Right? But there's still the process. Your mind is so quick. Go through that process. Once you learn the process, then you can back up, and you don't have to go through the process. You know, and I actually have a guy in the program who would tell me that I'll punch you right in the face. That's not a good That's not a good idea. That's not a good place to be. If the only response you have is to punch somebody in the face, you're not going to stay long on this planet. Somebody's going to off you or put you somewhere where you're not able to do that. You're not able to do it. Because here's the deal. If you get angry and you become threatening to other people, what happens? Those people get angry and become threatening back. Because you ain't going to, you're not going to jump on me without me jumping back. It ain't going to happen like that. I ain't run. I'm too old to run. I'm not going to do that. So we're going to do what we do. But, if I can deal with my anger, and if you're in that place where you cannot deal with your anger at all, then you're going to need some treatment. And, it's going to cost you some money. We had a guy who went to the therapist, and he talked about the anger, worked for us, nice young lady, and she made a mistake of meeting with him by herself. And he had this real anger issue, and she was working with him, so he jumped up and punched her in the face. Big old black eye and all of this stuff. And so we put him in 27 for treatment sessions. Now, we didn't send him to jail or anything like that, but we could have, because that's assault. And so we put him back. She said, "This is what I want to do." It's her choice, but she put him back in 27 more. The anger management course is 14 sessions long. So he was almost at the end of that, and then he had to do 27. So that wound up costing him a pretty good bit of stuff. And when you told the guy, "Look, you can stay in the program, 27 more classes, or you go to jail. What you want to do?" It was his choice. So he calmed down a little bit. He stayed in the group, and I don't know how he's doing, but hopefully he's doing better. It makes it complex. It is often broken down into specific categories. Common examples include assertive, chronic, overwhelmed, and among others. While anger can be challenging to manage, especially if that's what you've used to get by your whole life. If that's, you're scared, so what you do is you try to intimidate others. And you try to make other people afraid and get them back away from you and all of that kind of stuff. Then it's hard to deal with it if that's what you've been doing your whole life.
But they say the loudest person.
Yeah. Y'all hear what he said? The loudest person in the room is usually the one that's the most afraid. Yeah. One that's trying to intimidate everybody else. Yeah, they got issues. They got issues. You know, and nobody likes that. I don't like somebody that's always trying to intimidate other people. Why are you trying to intimidate them? What's the point? So I need to understand what it is that I want to intimidate other people because I want to push them away from me. I don't want them to challenge me. I don't want them to I don't want them to do anything to me or anything because if they do, I'm going to have to respond. And if I can be challenging enough, if I can be intimidating enough, people won't fool with me, and I won't have to do so. And it doesn't make any difference if you got a lot of game. It doesn't make any difference if you're the best boxer in the world. None of that makes any difference at all. We got some guys in here that I'm sure that can hold their own. But it doesn't make any difference. It's still fear that operates that. It's still fear that does that. That doesn't mean I'm a scaredy cat. It means there's an emotion called fear that you don't have any control over.
I have a question.
You see, so you have that emotion. You can't say I don't have that emotion and not have that emotion. Yes.
So, you're saying it's spirit, but a lot of times it's more like I'm getting tired of fucking telling you something. So now I'm gonna fucking do something. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And
I
if
see
you,
that as fear. I see that as irritation.
yeah, and that's I do.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's not. That's not. That's, I'm fucking irritated.
And stop with the language. Stop with the language.
But that's what I'm trying to say. You know, like that's not always the same thing. It's not the
Well,
same thing.
and look, there are some other things. What we're saying is that the major cause of fear, a major cause of anger, is fear. Probably 98% of people who have a lot of anger issues, you go back to fear. Here's the deal. If I get easily irritated and I get to the place where I cannot deal with that, that's a different thing where I need to deal with that too. If I have something that's irritating me so bad that I'm going to allow that to cause me to be angry and then lash out at somebody, I need to deal with that because it's not appropriate to get to that place. And I can always remove myself, just like this says, back up, breathe, be quiet, get the heck out of that situation. Because when we get it to that place, the consequences are not going to be good. Yes.
Well, also, something that they continuous. The reason might have fear.
It could be.
Might be fearful of whatever consequences are of the personality.
Yeah, why, and I need to look at that. And we do have people come, and we have people look. Not the first person that's told me that's not true. You know, I've had thousands of people come. No, that ain't true. You know, that's not. Fear didn't make this, is this. And as we break it down, okay, what's that here?
Okay.
Why is that bothering
Here's an
you?
example. If I have to tell you 3 times to wipe your shit off, that's not me being fearful of it. That's me being angry because you won't clean yourself up, clean your spot up.
And that would be, see, that's not real pure anger either. That's irritation. And that's a different animal.
But it turns
We
into
have
anger.
to deal with that irritation. The deal is, in a situation like that, if I was in a situation where I had to tell somebody to keep, look, I'm not going to tell you but 2 or 3 times that if I can't remove you from the situation, I'll remove myself. I'm going to go to a different room. I'm going to go to a different program. I'm not going to let I'm not going to, look.
So you're saying run from the problem.
I didn't say that. I'm going to tell you a little something you need to hear. You need to hear this. I am not going to let irritation or anger or fear or anything like that control me. Back when I was younger, this right here, I know I got a lot of wrinkles, but this one is not a wrinkle. That's a scar. Because I will tell you that, back in the day, I had anger issues. So when I started working to be a counselor and stuff like that, I knew that I had to deal with my own anger before I could deal with all the rest of this stuff. So don't be smoking dope don't do that. Don't be smoking dope in my group. That's called. Don't do. That's romance and the drug. I don't So, anyway, there are things that's going to irritate us and stuff like that, but I'm not going to let something that irritates me gain control. If you get to the place where it's 100 times, it's 40 times, then I'm going to do something about it now. Okay, but you've allowed something that's just irritating to get you to a place where you don't have any. When you lose control, that's a real issue. That's when we have a problem. So let's continue this so we can get that break coming up here soon. So your anger can be challenging to manage. It's absolutely true. Learning how to identify your type of anger can help you deal with your anger. And here's the deal. This is what the program is all about. This is what the state wants us to know. A lot of things, a lot of the reasons people are in prison today is because they didn't get a handle on their own. I need to be able to get a handle on my own anger. I need to be dealing with it. And look, there are some good ones and there's some bad ones. So we're going to go from good to bad to good to bad. We went over assertive anger. That's exactly what it sounds like. It's something that helps you to be assertive. And we need to be assertive. There's behavioral anger. Now, behavioral anger is that one we talked about, that one real quickly. That one is the one that's when people lash out. That's when people do all sorts of crazy mess. That's when people wind up hurting other people. A lot of men have that type of anger. And this is the one that's going to wind up hurting somebody. And then there's the other one that we looked at last time was chronic anger. And chronic anger is that one where you're going to be angry all the time, and it's going to cause you to be sick because the word chronic means it's just there forever. So there's ways to deal with all of those. So the one we're going to look at, and look, my little facility is called Sundown Anger Management Facility. So what does that mean? Why is it called Sundown? The Bible says not to let the sun go down on your anger. Or you need to deal with it before the day is out. But the one we're going to look at now is number 4, and it's called destructive anger, and this is one of those bad ones. Destructive anger is significantly unhealthy experience of anger that can have multiple negative impacts. While there's a limited research on this type right now, we're still researching it. It's often seen in connection with the extreme end of behavioral anger. This is when people get hurt, or when people get killed, when people go to prison. This may include extreme irritability or hatred of other people, even when it isn't warranted. Sometimes I get angry at people when they do something they can't help. This is me. Sometimes I get angry at people and over something that they can't help. They irritate me. I allow my irritation to get to that place where I get angry. And then I'm angry and I become more and more angry. And then when I go and sit down and I take a look at the issue, take a look at the situation, that person cannot really help what they're doing. I get angry sometimes at people who are in supervision above me, telling me stuff. This morning, working on my computer, just typing away. I'm a pretty good typist. I'm typing away. Guess what my computer did? It just went beep. It went off. I'm going, what? What happened? Shook it, tried to get it to start back up, plugged it, unplugged it. I'm looking at it, and I kicked back in my chair a little bit, looked out the window. What do you think I saw out there? Spectrum truck outside, sitting over there with its lights on, blinking. I'm going, what? So, I go, what the heck? So I'm getting up and I walk out and I go out there and I look and go to the computer room out there. And here's the Spectrum guy pulling wires. And so what the flip are you doing? Well, I said, you got several people here on computers, working on computers, and you just destroyed all of their work. You're just, did that irritate me? Yeah, yeah. But look, I'm looking at the guy, and he said, well, my boss told me that you guys have been informed. Guys, they'd already, and they had spoken to someone else, and they had told someone else, hey, we're going to go do this. Is that okay? And they said, absolutely. Y'all notice that all of the ladies that work up in front, all of that stuff, they moved down the road. So it used to be when they'd call them and say, hey, Spectrum is coming out to fix, going to do all, they just walk out the hall and say, hey, Doc, we're fixing to shut all that down, but they're down the road now, and they couldn't just walk down the hall, and so zippity-doo-dah, So, but that to me was irritating, and there was nothing. As a matter of fact, he'd already done everything that he could do. He had already contacted our leadership and said, hey, yeah. So my getting aggravated at him was completely misplaced. Right? So sometimes we do that when we have destructive anger. It'll get to that place. It can look like verbal, physical actions used to hurt others, throwing things, breaking something that's important to the person. We do that a lot of time in relationships, and that's not good. It can sometimes be present in a thing called stonewalling. Y'all know what stonewalling is? Some of you stonewall. I stonewall. Sometimes my wife stonewall. Stonewall means I'm just not saying anything to you. I'm being quiet. I'm not going to say a word to you. I'm just stonewalling. I'm just treating you like I'm a stone wall. And that's not good. Have you ever had anybody do that to you?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, you can't stand it. It is so aggravating. It is terrible. So what stonewalling does is the other person in the relationship, and it doesn't matter what that relationship is, could be a romantic relationship, could be the job where you're working with one another, could be all of those kinds of, whatever it is, that other person's going to get angry with as well. So shutting off significant others emotionally, destructive anger can impact many areas of our life in extremely unhealthy ways. Look here. Anger is a normal, natural emotion, but carried to extremes is terribly unhealthy and can destroy our lives. It's as bad as addiction. And there are a lot of people that come through our facility who are addicted to anger. They thoroughly enjoy power thrusting. They thoroughly enjoy big chesting. They thoroughly enjoy being able to get that rush that being angry gives us, and that dopamine that gets dumped into your brain when we get angry. So a lot of people look.
That's what I kind of meant by embracing your anger.
Yeah, and a lot of people love it. They get angry because it feels good to them. It feels great to them. Maybe not to you, but we're not talking about you particularly. But there's a lot of people who, man, they'll get angry. They wind up in jail. They wind up in the hospital. They come right back out, get right back in the same thing. Because they're like that. I had a guy come. His wife was supposed to pick him up. He went outside. He took her spare tire out of the back of her car and put it in the driver's seat. And when he came back in, I said, what did you do? His name is Hiram. What did you do, Hiram? He said, I put her spare tires in. I said, what did you do that for, man? He said, she's going to go crazy. I said, why would you do that? He was looking for that argument. I said, man, wait. He said, we fight every night. I said, why do you fight every night? It's just who we are. Andy Griffith had a show where there was a husband and wife fought all the time. So he went, you remember that one? He went and made them make up and made them just have a good time, and they were loving on each other, calling each other darling and all of that stuff, and they hated it. And by the end of the show, he had let them get back to where they were happy, screaming and yelling and all of that kind of stuff at each other. But the fact that they're happy doing that doesn't mean that that's healthy. So healthy means I can control my anger. Does that mean I don't get angry? I can get angry. I do get angry. But here's the deal: I can still control it. If I get angry at something you say to me or something you do to me, then at that break time, sometimes y'all notice we take a little bit longer break. Not maybe because you pooped in my mess kit or something, made me feel bad, made me angry or something, and I need to go sit in my office in there and drink some more coffee or something. Because I want to control anger. Now look, y'all don't get angry. According to the study, don't get angry. But the people who cannot control their anger are the wicked. It's a man who or a woman who can control their emotions. They're the strong. So, sometimes we lose our cool because we are in that place where we know who we are. And we're weak, or we're scared, or all of these kinds of things. And we have to prove to ourselves, not afraid, prove to ourselves we're not weak. We have to prove to ourselves. You don't have to do that. A strong person doesn't have to get angry. A strong person can deal with their emotions. So don't get angry. Here's the deal. Here's how you manage that stuff. Destructive anger can unquestionably hurt you and hurt your loved one. It can also be physically dangerous to you and physically dangerous to clinicians or counselors, people like that. Managing this type of anger can require some professional support. You may need to go to see someone. You can, look, here's the deal. If I'm like this, and I will tell you something, there's several people in here that I have identified in my identifier as having some anger issues. But I want to tell you this. You have improved. You have moved from a place where you would snap at it, just anything. But you have, over the period of time that you've been here, you have matured to a place where I have seen you deal with your anger on lots and lots of different levels. And I'm excited about that. I see that happening here, and we're not really all the time fooling with just anger. We're doing all sorts of other things, but you have been dealing with your own anger, and that's just, to me, that's exciting. So here's the big thing. If we have this behavioral anger, this thing is going on in our life, we have to notice what's happening early. We have to know that, hey, I'm getting irritated. Hey, when they do that, when I get irritated. So when I know that that's irritating to me, then I need to remove that, either remove that from my situation or remove me from that situation. So that's what's going to help me. We need to know when the first sign that I may be headed in that direction. This is gonna make me crazy. This is gonna make me angry. So I've got to get away from it now. It's like standing at an ant bed. Anybody ever stood on a red ant bed? Don't do that. But if you stand on a red ant bed and you look down, you got one bite, 2 bites you need to move. Because if you don't move, you're going to get 300 bites or 400 bites or 1,000 bites. So after you've gotten 1,000 bites, you're in a place where, hey, I can't deal with it. But when you get that first ant bite, if you move, then it's better. You go get some cornmeal and put it on that ant bed, and then it'll kill them all. Cornmeal kills ants. If you go put that on there, it'll kill them all. But you can't just stand on that ant bed, because after a while, they're going to eat you alive. That's what the Indians used to do to cowboys. Tie them to an ant bed. So you can't do that. So here's the deal. What's that? Hey, that's irritating. Man, I don't like that. Man, I do not. I don't. Man, it's like this coffee pot. I really like what comes out of that pot, don't y'all? I like what comes out of it, but I hate that pot. Can you hear it? That pot is aggravating. So I would not, by any stretch of the imagination, have that pot in my office.
We'll take a look.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to have that thing in my office. It's noisy. I like what comes out of it, but I don't like it when it's making what comes out of it. I have a coffee pot in my office, and it'll make a pot of coffee. You never even know it. You might smell it, and smelling it is a good thing. But if it starts aggravating me just a little bit, then I'm gonna walk away from it. If I know, see, here's the deal. If I'm addicted to that, if I'm really like being angry, if I love the power thrusting that it gives me, then I'm gonna stay in the situation so that I can notice it, so that I can see it. After a while, I'm gonna get a little bit of that on my finger. Maybe after a while, I'm gonna get some on my whatever. Maybe I'm gonna step in it. Maybe I'm gonna do something, and I'll do it on purpose to help me get that anger level moving up, moving up, moving up. And then when I do something that's totally crazy, and the police are called, and I'm in the jail, well, he did that. No, he didn't do anything. You did it. You did that. You decided that you were going to stay in that place that was aggravating you. You decided you were going to stay thinking about that. You decided you were going to go look at it one more time. You decided you were going to say something. You got to that place where you couldn't handle it. You just couldn't handle it anymore. You did it. Always in charge of our own emotions. Always, it's always our fault. So, we need to get to a place. Look, we need to know that these are destructive. We need to know our own triggers. It's going to bother me the most. You have to identify other ways to manage this stress. One of the best ways to manage that stress is to get out of the stressful situation. Yes.
So, okay, I get that it's our own faults. But how about holding accountable
I think that's true. I think that's true. Here's a thing that somebody said to me the other day that was fantastic. I've heard it 1,000 times, but I heard it the other day. Does that need to be said? Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said right now? Does it need? Wait, let me finish. Does it need to be said by me? Most of the time, if it needs to be said, then it needs to be said. But I also got to make sure that it needs to be said right now. If I'm a little bit out of control, if I'm frustrated, if I'm irritated, it doesn't need to be said right now. I'm going to tell you, I can tell you all sorts of things without being angry at you. But look, if it's irritated me, if it's stressed me out or something like that, I'm not going to tell you when I'm stressed out. I'm not going to do that. I have seen people. Have y'all been yelled at in here? Not by me. Not by me. Some of you have been in my office and we have discussed some things, but you have never been yelled at by me. There have been times when I want to yell at you, but I don't do that. I let the stress get past me. So does it need to be said? Yes. Okay, it needs to be said. Look, and we've talked about it in here. If you can't clean up in the bathroom, then go poop in the woods. Look, I don't want to come behind you. If I come in the bathroom and you're within that bathroom and you mess that thing up, and look, that happens in our bathroom too. Not just here. I got a bathroom right there. I went in that bathroom the other day and there was stuff everywhere. I'm going, oh my God. This was a grown person just used the restroom in here. A grown person, and there's feces. I'm going, it looks like somebody exploded in the bathroom. And has anybody ever exploded in the bathroom? I have. I've exploded. There's been times just exploded in the bathroom. I'm going to tell you what, I took 15 minutes exploding and then another 30 minutes cleaning. So if you poop on something, you unpoop it. I don't want to. I don't want exactly. I don't want. So it needs to be said, but does it need to be said right now? If I'm upset, no, it doesn't. I don't want. No, let me say it. I don't want to say it while I'm in my feelings.
Okay. That being said, if I come to you 20 times nicely,
Yeah,
and you still keep doing this thing,
right. What do?
you're telling me to leave the situation.
Well, you
If
can
I leave
leave.
the situation, okay, what do you do? Or another guy do the same thing, I gotta tell
What
you.
what are you going to do?
What am I gonna do, or what do you want me to
No. It's always, look, what I want you to do is do what full grown man would do, or do what full grown woman would do. And that means I don't have to be angry or anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell somebody who can do something. At some point, that person who is messing that place up like that can be removed from the program. We don't want, if that's going on, we don't want that to happen. But here's the deal. We dealt with that situation one time and we moved you. And if it's happening again, that's the first I've heard of it.
I'm tired of being the one that's gotta leave the situation.
But you hadn't said anything to me about that.
But I've been telling you.
So now you're telling me, but you hadn't told me before. But that's the third thing. Does it need to be said? Yes. Does it need to be said right now? Probably not. The third thing, does it need to be said by me? Now look, and look, I keep saying don't get angry. If you can't help yourself and you want to get angry, go ahead. But here's the deal. Does it need to be said by you? Probably not. And not by you. Let me say it a different way. Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said? Yes. Does it need to be said right now? Probably not. Does it need to be said by me? Maybe not. If I can't control my emotions, then it definitely does not need to be said by me. It needs to be said by somebody else. And there are other people who you can say it. So you need to take it to somebody else. And that's a recurring thing in your life. That's a recurring thing that keeps happening. So I'm going to go do some inspecting and stuff. Yeah. So, and you shouldn't have to clean. I'm not, look.
I clean my bathroom every day.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I don't, we make sure that it is every day.
Let me share this. I have a clean bathroom at my home. I have a clean bathroom here. I don't mind cleaning the bathroom. I clean up after myself. I don't want to clean up after. So if you go to the bathroom and you mess it up, clean it up. That's just normal courtesy. And if you don't, then there will be consequences behind that. And look, if somebody's in your room and they're pooping all over everything, they're making a real mess, you need to tell me. And I'm going to go and get that person, take them to my office, and let them know where the other place that they can go. Look, you can't poop on something. We don't do that. So if you're the one doing that, all you have to do, and like I said, look, I've exploded, and sometimes I've messed up bathrooms. I was out of prison. We had an officer that came in from the field and went into the bathroom, and we had one of those air dryers on the side of the wall. I heard that thing go off, and go off, and go off, and go off, and go off. And like 15 minutes, it was, and he came out of there, and he was out in the field, and something happened, and he had to dump himself. But he was cleaning his own mess. And so I can understand how that would make a person frustrated.
I think that's more my English. I got that. We call it, we call it, we get mad at each other 4 times something.
Yeah.
Not the eardrops, I'm talking about the anger problem.
Yeah, behavioral anger.
No, I'm talking about, it comes with behavioral problems. But I'm saying it's more of an irritational anger. Like I get so irritated if I have to tell somebody something so many times.
And this is
keep doing it. And even if I tell them nicely, I can tell them nicely 20 times the first time. That 20th time I'm putting it hard.
You should see, and let me say that now. Look, get angry if you want to, but if I tell somebody something 20 different times, I'm working up to that place where I get my anger. That's what I'm doing. You shouldn't be telling anybody 20 times not to do something. You should have told somebody else 14 times ago. You shouldn't.
I just haven't told
you never told me. And I'm going to get with Mr. Washington and figure out, hey, if you tell somebody that, that should take care of it. You should never have to tell somebody 20 times to do that because that's not even your place. You, they pooping on something, you go talk to the RA, you come talk to me, you know where my office is, and we'll deal with that. It's not something you're supposed to be here dealing with addiction, not dealing with somebody pooping on the. That's, so that's getting you to that place. And did you stand up because you fall asleep or because it's break time?
Now, right now, I see good idea.
Did you have something?
I see
Okay, yeah. So look, it's break time. Let's take a 15-minute break.
Thanks, sir.
We'll get back into this.
Much for that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
I appreciate the input. I'll do the input.
How are you? How are you?
Close the house. All right. No. I ain't seen the bed since.
Everybody got your back, man. So secure. But, just got talking. Part of yeah, but I was working up.
But it was that was. Like
Well, we're back. Most of us. All these, we're back. Got a couple, 3 or 4 more of these that we're gonna go over. I'm gonna show y'all how how sharp I am. Right off the bat, I can tell that they ain't about half of them. Pardon me, doing that. See all that. Which leads us into the next type of anger, which is one that a lot of people are judgmental anger. So what do you think when you say something like judgmental anger? What do you think that means? No idea. You know, when I'm judgmental of other people, I'm judging what they do, and I'm judging. Should we judge other people? Do we judge other people? Yeah, and you know, here's the thing about judging other people. I judge everybody. And you know, we most all of us do. We judge people's actions. We judge people, the things they say. We judge how they look, what they wear. We just judge other people, and I think some of it is appropriate. The Bible tells us to judge ye with a righteous judgment. You know, so do it the right way. Don't judge people trying to look at the bad thing, but do it the right way. So here's what judgmental anger is, though. Judgmental anger is a reaction to some perceived slight. And that means if you think somebody did something to get you, or if you think somebody did something against you, that's a perceived slight. They did something nasty. That's like pooping on stuff.
People do that, though.
They do.
People are spiteful.
People do that. Sometimes it's a perceived. What does perceived mean? You think they did it, and sometimes they didn't do it, but sometimes they do. You know, sometimes people do things that to get you. Sometimes people do things that hurt you. Sometimes people do things that mess you around. Here's the deal about anger. When I am angry at Mr. Johnson, I'm just angry at him. Mr. Leon, I'm just mad at him. I'm angry at him. What does that do? Generally, what was that? Irritates him too. But here's the deal. Usually generalized anger, when I'm just angry at Mr. Johnson, it gives Mr. Johnson power over me. So my anger toward another person gives that other person power over me. Because when a person walks into this room, Mr. Washington went out, that did not affect my mood for him to leave the room. When he came back into the room, that did not affect my mood. When I had a guy that got so angry at me because he was another preacher and he wanted me to do something that was not right, so I didn't do it. So he became so angry at me that he couldn't stay in the same room with me. So there was somebody having a wedding, and I went into the church, and he was sitting at the pew right down here. When I went in, I sat on this end of the pew. He looked and saw me there and got his left. We ride little motorcycles, and when we were going to ride on a trip for kids, you know, everybody has to pay to ride. It's $20 a bike to ride, and then you get these little stickers, pins. They go on your vest. They cost $2 or $3 a piece. Then when you get to the restaurant, you do what's 50-50. You know what that is? Everybody buys a ticket, and then you win 50% of the money, and then the rest of the money goes to that good cause. And usually us, we would give the money, all of the money back to that good cause. And it was for children with brain tumors and stuff like that. He had gotten to the place on his bike, and he and his wife, they had paid their tickets, they had bought their stuff, they were ready to go. My wife and I pulled up on our bikes, and he and his wife left. Couldn't even ride in the second because he was angry at me. So I had power over him. Anytime I walked into the room, I could change his mood just because he was angry at me.
But isn't that him stepping away from danger?
I guess so.
He
Yeah,
sets himself
that's a
aside.
good. That's a good point. He was getting away from me, but the fact is that when he saw me, when I stepped into the room, I could change his mood. He would get angry all over again because I was there. But you're right. Mr. Odell's right. He was getting away from me, which is another thing we say. And I'm glad he did that because he's twice my size. But judgmental anger is a reaction to some perceived slight, somebody else's flaws. If they feel they impact them, or an injustice against somebody or someone else they care about. Judgmental anger is identified in people's core beliefs, basic perceptives or understanding of the world. This core belief is generally one of feeling like they're better or worse than other people, leading them to judge those other people and become angry about their actions and their expressions. Y'all want to know who I'm better than? I'm gonna call your name and have you raise your hand. Um, I'm better than you. There's nobody, right? I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. So look, do I still judge you sometimes? Yeah. Sometimes I judge your actions, judge mine. Sometimes, when I'm teaching or something, I see people out there going. So I know they're judging whenever I'm teaching. They're judging me. They're judging everybody that knows me. They're judging my mama who helped me live. They're judging. I know that. So everybody does a little bit of that. But this is one of those that's not really, really going to be behavioral. Usually we keep most of this anger to ourselves and it hurts more me than anybody else. Now, anger is an emotion that causes us to get to that fight or flight syndrome. And if we are angry a lot, it hurts us physically and emotionally. So it can cause physical ailments and it can cause emotional distress. So it is not a good thing for us to be angry all the time. And it's not good. If I'm in a good place and I'm positive and I'm not angry, then my body is in better shape and I'm mentally in a better place and all of those things. So this is one of the reasons that we want people to be able to deal with their own anger. First off, I don't want you to become a dangerous person. Not because I'm scared of you or anything like that, but when you're a dangerous person, you can hurt yourself or others. 90% of the time, when you get to that place where you're angry to an extent where you're going to strike out, the one that in the end gets hurt worse is you. It's you. It's the angry person. People are going to defend themselves. Scared people will defend themselves more than anybody else. If I'm afraid, I'm going to get a stick or rock, a snake, or something to defend myself. I'm going to stop you from hurting me. What I'm going to do. So everybody's like that. We have that. God put that in to defend ourselves. Usually, the one that gets angry is the one that's going to get. This the core belief is generally one of feeling like they're better or worse than other people, leading them to judge them, become angry about their actions or expressions. Judgmental anger often manifests as justified fury. I did that because. Where anger arises from a perceived injustice, personal slight, it may involve criticizing others. Usually, like we said, it's not all that physically dangerous. Um, criticizing other people. Wait a minute. Making disparaging remarks. Have you ever done that? I've done that. Go talk bad about people. That's that judgmental anger. Venting frustrations. about unfair situations. This is one of those where somebody's pooping on the all over the place. I used to, I was the director of a camp, troubled kids up in East Texas, out in the middle of the woods. We take a whole bunch of those kids up there and we have a good time for a week and then we bring them back. Before I was director of the camp, I was counselors, and the director came leaving, had all the kids on the bus, and the director came and said, "Hey, all the counselors, come off the bus." All the counselors got off the bus. He said, "Follow me, guys." And so we went back, took us into the bathroom. And the bathroom had poop on the seats and on the walls and on the ceiling. Somebody had handprints in poop all over the place. And I tell you, I can giggle about it now, but it was sickening then. And this guy said, "All right, guys, we have to clean this place before we can leave." We're going, "Look, we didn't do it. Get those little suckers off the bus. They did it." But no, never let any of them know that we knew. Before we left, it was pristine, it was clean, it was beautiful, it was walked out of there. And I'm thinking, man, if I could just look at their fingernails, if I could just smell their, I would know the one that needed to be tied to the back of the bus and dragged. Yeah. I was a little judgmental at that point. The justified fear, when anger arises from a perceived injustice, personal slight, criticizing other people, venting frustrations about unfair situations. I want to tell you, that was unfair. We had spent our vacation time, spent money to be up there. We had bought food, we had done everything, and then suckers did that. So over time, this pattern can strain relationships. If you say something a little snide to your wife, to your husband, something a little nasty to your coworker, and I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I will say something a little snide to Mr. Washington, or something a little snide to one of the counselors, or to my boss, or something like that. And I'm guilty of some of that stuff. Over time, it can strain those relationships. It can hinder emotional support systems. There's people out there that are emotional support system. They get tired of hearing me say nasty things to them and about them. And pretty soon they don't want to be my emotional support system. They don't want to hear it. So, contribute to feelings of isolation, and diminished self-worth. Those people don't like me, people don't talk to me. Have you ever been around anybody that was always negative? Always, yeah. I've been around some people who were just always negative. Just never had a good day. Always negative. And I want to tell you, I don't want to be around those folks. After a while, I just don't want to look. I'm a positive person. And I use positive self-talk. And I let myself know. I pray about it every morning. And I ask God to make me a positive, spiritually positive person every day. I want to be positive about everything. And I said that to somebody and one time, and they said, "Well, I'm positive I don't like that." And that's true. Sometimes I'm positive I don't like that. But I can find the positive in everything. Not Saturday, Friday night at 9:30, my brother-in-law died. Passed from this earth, 9:30, Friday night. Saturday morning, not 9:30 Saturday night. We learned about it Sunday morning, and how do you get something positive out of that? How do you get something positive out of somebody dying?
They're no longer in pain.
Well, that's a good, they're no longer in pain. He was 89 years old. He had stage 4 cancer that was in his whole body. He had leukemia for a long time. And he was at home, and they took him to the hospital and did a biopsy of his lungs. And then 2 weeks later, he was dying. So he couldn't breathe. He was in bunches and bunches of pain. And so they took him by hospital down to the hospice. He stayed in there about 2 days under sedation until he finally breathed his last. And so, he's saved, sanctified, sliding into heaven. So, in my belief system, he's standing before the Lord Jesus Christ this morning, and he's in great shape. He was always that powerful person. He was 6'6", weighed about 300 pounds, and nothing but muscle. And then I went to see him before he passed away up there, and he was smaller than you. But he was smaller than you, taller still, but about that big around, and just didn't look like himself at all. So that's positive. He's gone. His wife's a whole lot younger than him. She has the rest of her life to live for. It's just going to be. It's hard to do that, but you can be positive about those things. Yes.
We also got people that true believers that be going home and all Sunday service.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I believe that. I know when I die what I'm going to happen to me. So it sometimes can do that. Now here's how we deal with judgmental anger. We consider how judgment is a form of self-protection. When I'm judging other people, I'm protecting myself. I'm trying to look at myself to say, well, I'm better than that. I'm better than those people. This is not true. Here's the deal. You can't do anything to make God love you any more or any less. He loves you. That's it. But he loves the second person, the one sitting next to you, just as much as he does you. So you're not any better than that person. Some of the things that person does, I'm better than. I'm not going to do that. But I have to give that person the benefit of the doubt. Often we judge what we don't understand. We've had some folks come through here that a little bit different than me, and sometimes I'm going, that's weird. That's strange. But sometimes we don't understand those things. And so I've learned down through the years, if there's something that I find weird and something that I find strange, I want to talk to that person. We had a few people, and we had one that just came in here not too long ago that had the stick and all of that stuff, and he was So I went and sat down with him, took him to my office, and we talked for quite a while. And after we had talked a little bit, I was a little bit more understanding of his point of view. Now, I didn't roll over to his point of view, but in his defense, he didn't roll over to mine either. But we did have that talk where we understood each other just a little bit better. So that's what I have learned to do. I'm not going to judge that person, more than I have to, because everybody judges everybody. But what I am going to do is get with that person and try my level best to understand what's going on with you. Why are you so different from the rest of the world? What's the deal? And so, sometimes that has helped me a lot. Sometimes we just dislike something in somebody else that represents something we either lack or something we want. I've seen that happen a lot. I don't like that person. Why don't you like that person? Well, I don't know. I just don't. Well, that person has something that I really would like to have in my life, but I don't have that in my life, so I've decided I'm just going to be judgmental toward that person. It happens a lot. The deal is whatever that person has, usually I can have that as well. It's something that's working. So instead of trying to change our judgment, we need to learn to lean into compassion. Instead, instead of judging that person, trying to get rid of the judgment myself, what I need to do is just lean into more compassion. I need to be compassionate about that person. Sometimes what that person is doing, it can help. Sometimes what that person is doing, it's not their fault. That's just what it is. So I don't need to be judgmental about that person. Maybe I need to try to help them. Maybe I could lead that person. Maybe I could train that person. Maybe I could care a little more. So, what good can you find in the other one? Maybe they do something. Tell you something. Now look, I don't know, ladies, if I make you sick, that's right. I have a person that's pretty close to me, and we all shake hands and everything. This person does this all the time. So I just know. I don't want to shake her hand because I just know there got to be germs on your head. If nothing else, it's kind of slimy. There's got to be snot, all over you. It's like that guy that asked the kid, said, "Hey, dude, how come you got green hair?" He said, "Well, I don't know." Come on, it's a joke. Come on. But this person does that, and they do that in my office and everything else. And they say, "Well, I'm going to go to work." I'm going, no. So what do? What can you punch him in the head? What? Yeah, that's exactly what I've done. I've given honking in to wash my hands.
All you gotta do is say forgive me if I don't shake your hand.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you. I have some Kleenexes in my office, and I have had to come to the place where I said, "Look, here's a Kleenex, not your hand." What? Use a Kleenex. Now, don't put that stuff on your hand and expect me to shake your hand. Use Kleenex. And sometimes, that's something that you have to do. I did address it. So, let's see. So, what good can you find in that other person? And this person that's causing me all of that, I have done that, and they have so much good. There is so much good that it far outweighs any little snot you might get on you. But what may have led them then into the ways that they're doing? Why would they be doing that? What would have led them to that? I really don't know. Really don't know. I have seen several people do that. Goodness, I don't know do that. So I haven't discovered that yet, and haven't really worked at discovered it. So the next anger is overwhelmed. And look, a lot of people get affected by overwhelmed anger. And it's one of those that can be a little bit problematic because overwhelmed anger is unpredictable. We really don't know what it's going to do, but it can also impact your mental health over time. Overwhelmed anger is a bad place to be. This type of anger builds up. It can start as a small irritation, but it just kind of stays there. And it builds up, especially if you don't find ways to express or communicate how you feel. This is why we need good communication lines. I have never seen really good communication lines in effect. Almost always, I can find people that said, "Nobody told me. Nobody said anything. Nobody did it." We should be communicating all of the time. I need to go to the person who is doing something that's irritating and communicate to them. You need to, if it needs to be said, it needs to be said right now, and it needs to be said when I'm not irritated, and it needs to be said by me. If it needs to be said, okay, it needs to be said. If it needs to be said right now, I'll find somebody else to say it. And then if it doesn't need to be said by me, I'm going to find out when it does need to be said and try to get that moving along a little bit. This type builds up. We need to communicate. It may show itself when things hit a boiling point. It's exactly what we was talking about. That irritation grows and grows and grows till we hit that boiling point, or we get to the end of our ability to cope with anger and stress, have been overwhelmed due to certain situations, feelings, or interactions. Overwhelmed anger can look like a sudden snap of irritability, someone who has some irritability going on. And look, that happens to me from time to time because I'll tell you, I am working at holding my anger. I'm working and not being, I don't want to be an angry person. I find being an angry person as a weakness. I'm not weak. I'm strong. I'm confident. I'm a powerful spiritual man. So I don't have to be angry. I see that as a huge weakness. So I don't want to be that angry. So, I keep telling myself this is who I am. And then at some point that irritation comes up. And so I have to go somewhere and dump that out. And so that's what we need to do at time because overwhelmed anger can look like a sudden snap of irritability and resentment following a long stretch of repression. And here's the deal. I've worked really hard at not just repressing my anger, but dealing with it. If I have it repressed, that means it can come back out. I don't want my anger to be repressed. I want to be dealt with. I want to find out what's the deal there. What do you think? One of the things that, fear is the driver most of the time of anger. One of the things that causes me to have some anger in my life is disrespect. That's why, look, I bend over backwards to respect every person that I come in contact with. I'm going to respect you. That doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you all the time, right? I have people that I totally, utterly, completely disagree with. I don't agree with you, and I think that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm not going to tell you that because I'm going to respect you as a full-grown person. You have the right to your own set of beliefs and values, right? That's you. That's your beliefs, and that's your values. So I don't have the right to come and tell you anything about that. Look, I'm going to respect you. May not agree with you, and that's okay. I don't have to agree with you. I still need to respect you. And when I get disrespected, then sometimes that hurts my feelings deeply. That hurts my feelings, and then I go, because I know I need to get somewhere. I'm going to allow that to make me angry because it hurts my feelings. But, it all stems from that place of fear. Everything does. While the expression of overwhelmed anger appears different for everybody, it will come on suddenly. It may be preceded by a stressful event. This type of anger is often seen in staff of clinics and clinicians, places like this, due to the stressful nature of the job. It happens a lot to police officers, to first responders, soldiers right now, since we're at war, it happens to soldiers. How to manage it, it requires early intervention, watching, knowing that it's coming. You need to recognize what's happening inside of you. It's a level of frustration. I'm starting to get, look, if I'm getting overwhelmed, what should I do?
Back up, breathe, quiet.
Back up, breathe, and be quiet. Yeah, go home for a minute. I've had clinicians so mad at clients they can't see straight. And I said, look, I don't want you to have any more interaction with anybody. I'll be all right. Yes, you will. Go home. At the prison, I had a special chair in the corner of my office, and it was the fired corner. When somebody came in upset, all of that kind of stuff, I'd fire them for 15 minutes. And you go sit in that chair over there. Well, I don't care what you do. I am the executive director. And I told you to sit in that chair. Yes, sir. Sit in that chair, and they'd start to say something. No, you're fired. 15 minutes. Can't talk to me. After 15 minutes of just sitting, temperature would go down. They'd come out, a couple of them, after 15 minutes, they'd get up, they'd come over there, no change. Okay. You need a little bit more, so we're going to send you home for the rest of the day. Come back tomorrow, let's get this thing started. Out there, we had folks had about 56 clients. So that's hard. So, can't afford to be emotional. So overwhelmed can be tough. So the way to do it is you recognize what's happening before you release that. Early warning signs can be all sorts of things, but they can include fatigue. If you get tired, you know. I talked to my brother last night, and he works. He's a ranch hand. He works on a ranch. He's farming, and he's been farming at a ranch for like ever. That's what he does. He's a cowboy, and he's in Mississippi, and I'm in Texas, and I'm not cowboy. It's kind of weird. But when we talk, he said, "Man, I'm tired. I had to do this. I had to do that." Yeah, I'm tired too. And he said, "Yeah, but yours is brain tired." So sometimes there is such a thing as brain tired. Sitting around doing paperwork and all of that stuff can get your brain tired. That's what's wrong with Mr. Washington. He's brain tired. So, we need to recognize what's happening inside of us to get to that level. It can include just being fatigued, just being tired. Then you see some irritability coming on. When look, being irritable is not okay. Okay. Now, if I'm irritable, that is the beginning of anger. So that's not okay. I need to figure out what's irritating. And I need to remove myself from the irritating thing, remove the irritating thing from me, deal with the irritating thing, and it'll be all right. If I'm getting irritated because I have this booger in my nose, what can I do? Snot rocket, the man said. Yeah. I was picking my nose the other day, and I thought I had a booger, but it was snot. Get it? That's a good joke. Nobody ever gets it. It's good. Disconnect. We feel like we're disconnected sometimes. People are not listening, not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And then we can feel ourselves operating in passive aggressiveness. A lot of times we don't realize it's passive aggression. Dr. Garner is a good teacher, but people keep walking out of the group. That's passive aggressive, right? Dr. Garner is a great teacher, man. I really like what he teaches, man. But gosh, he stays up there a long time, right? Dr. Garner's a great teacher, but man, he misses break time. All of that's passive aggressive. I really like that guy, but he poops on the commode seat too much. I really like that guy, but man, he's always getting all the coffee. That's passive aggressive, saying something good and then ending it up with something not so good. Now, a lot of times we see that passive aggressiveness happening in our life. Most of us are not superhumanly passive aggressive, so when we see some of that coming into our life, we say, okay, that's the beginning of some of this overwhelmed anger, and I need to start dealing with that. I don't want to be passive aggressive. If I want to say something nice about a person, guess what I need to do? Say something nice about it. I don't have to follow that up. With some boy, that girl can dress. If she wasn't fat like that, she'd look really good. That's passive aggressive. So the next anger we're going to look at real quickly, and we'll have to quit, is passive aggressive anger. Right? Passive aggressive anger can be really bad. But here's the deal. Passive aggressive anger is an avoidant form of expression. That means I'm trying to avoid saying something or doing something. I'm either trying to avoid the good thing or the bad thing. And so I'm thinking that I can say something nasty about a person without it becoming something bad for me. So I can say that person is ugly, but if I preface it with something good, then it's going to take the sting out of it. This kind of anger occurs when someone suppresses how they feel and attempts to avoid all types of conflicts. This can be dangerous as self-esteem levels are often impacted by anger. As such, passive-aggressive anger can have a negative influence on relationships as well. Honey, I love you, but you can't cook. The passive aggressive,
Sounds like it's telling the truth.
it may be true, but it can still be passive aggressive too. Yeah, yeah. You know, my wife is a great cook. She has been a wonderful cook our whole life, but you know, now that she's getting to the place where she's not well and all of these things, her talent in that area is not what it used to be. So when she feeds me, what do I tell her?
That's so.
What is it?
That's so.
That's the best stuff I've ever had. Man, this tastes good. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. I would never tell that girl. But some of the stuff she cooks nowadays is not what it used to be. So, passive aggressive anger can be verbal or physical. It includes emotional repression, avoidance of conflict, and therefore resolution of issues. We have to have conflict. We need to have conflict in our relationships, in our lives. Here's the deal. Conflict does not equal violence. I don't have to punch you in the head to have conflict. I can come and sit down with you and say, hey, you did this and we don't want to be doing that. We can discuss it as a mature adult human beings. Right? 12-year-olds are the ones who slap and kick and scream, who blow snot boogers at each other. That's 12-year-olds. You know, as men and women of our age, our maturity level, we ought to be able to sit down and say, look, I didn't like it, did this, let's not do that. Again, is that okay? And, I don't have to. So, I like your outfit, but see, this is a passive aggressive thing. We've already said a lot of these, but this is another one. I like your outfit, even though it doesn't fit you. That's passive aggressive. That's a good thing and a bad thing. So, sarcasm or an intentional lack of response, passive aggressive, is most common in verbal form, but it can also be done through body language and stuff like that, or continually procrastinating at work, just not getting something done. That's procrastinating is a form of passive aggressive. I'm not doing my job. I'm here like I want to do the job, but then I'm not doing the job.
Fire.
Okay?
Fire.
Fire them.
Gotcha.
I've had to do that on occasion. So here's the thing: we can recognize the unmet needs existing underneath that passive aggression. Usually, I have an unmet need. That's why I'm treating people this way. What are we really trying to say? What fears do they have that are actually being honest with their needs? Passive aggression needs to be rooted in attachment insecurity, or tends to be. So trying to strengthen vulnerability within themselves and others can help manage this type of anger. Being vulnerable within myself. What does that mean? I can let other people see my weaknesses. I can let other people see that my feelings are hurt. I can let other people see egotism and pride in me. I can let other people see the real me without trying to hide everything and not trying to get angry and just, you can't see anything in me because I'm too angry. Getting here. So we made it to number 7, which means that we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 left to do. So I don't know if we'll get them this week, but we'll get them because it's fun talking about these different types of anger because I can see people looking at me like, yeah, I don't believe that. And, so questions, comments, or snide remarks. Yeah? Man, see, that's what shows me that I'm a really good teacher because, y'all have to ask any questions because I told you everything. And, so, and you don't want to make any snide remarks because you're scared I might get angry, right? Right?
I just like asking my question.
That was sarcasm. I'll be over there.